If everyone could begin taking your seats, we'll continue.
Okay, good morning. You're going to hear that probably 6 more times before noon, and then we'll switch to good afternoon. I worked for a guy who would say at ease at the beginning of staff meetings at Northwestern State University, so at ease. Mike White is about to enter his 21st season in the Southeastern Conference, and along that journey it includes 4 seasons as a student athlete on the men's basketball team at Ole Miss, 7 as an assistant coach at Ole Miss, 7 as the head coach at the University of Florida, and now in his 3rd season as head coach at Georgia. Had a really exciting run to the NIT semifinals last year. At Ole Miss as a player, Mike was a 4-year starter, helped lead the program to 3 consecutive NCAA basketball tournaments and its first ever NCAA tournament win. I first met Mike. We used to run a program called SEC New Coaches Orientation. So once you got hired, you came in. I can name on probably 2 hands over the 15 years that I managed that program the number of coaches who proactively came up to me to introduce themselves and have a conversation. And Mike is that kind of person. I still remember him introducing himself. I also walked in a locker room in Madison Square Garden where he had his headphones in. He was writing on the whiteboard, and I said, "What are you listening to?" And it was Irish music. That's a good pregame thought. Beyond that, Mike developed a pretty good reputation for toughness. So during that senior season, he played with a broken nose, a broken finger, a torn rotator cuff, and a sprained ankle all at one time. His wife, Kira, was a volleyball student athlete at Ole Miss, and they have 5 children. So it's my privilege to introduce University of Georgia head men's basketball coach Mike White.
Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you very much. Great to be here. Great to see some faces that you see once a year, sometimes a few more times a year, but great to be back in Birmingham. What can I answer?
Okay, we'll take questions. If you'll raise your hand, we'll get one of the remote mics to you, and please remember to identify yourself and the outlet you represent. Let's go ahead and start on the front row on the right.
Ben Roberts, Lexington Herald Leader. Mike, the Commissioner, just ran down your vast experience in this league. How much have you seen it change from 20 plus years ago, and can you kind of pinpoint why it has gotten so much better? Nine teams in the preseason 25.
Yeah, the obvious biggest change is just a much better league in men's basketball. Men's basketball has caught some other sports in this league. Commissioner Sankey's done an amazing job. The SEC network, I think, has been a big factor. We've got a really high-level roster of coaches. The talent uptick, particularly in the last decade or so, continues. We're the best league in college basketball. We just are. The SEC is officially now the best league in college basketball. Every year I stand up here and we're asked these questions. Is it better? It's incredible. Boy, it's better. It's even better this year. It's the best it's ever been. And we'll say it again next year, and we'll say it again the following year. It's amazing. I mean, we're preseason 12, I guess. Is that what I read? And we're significantly better. We're a good team, and obviously, you hope to finish higher than that. But the team that finishes 12th, whoever that team may be, will probably be on the bubble, right? Where 7 years ago, 11 years ago, what have you, teams. I know one in particular that finished 2nd in the SEC, and teams that finished 4th in the SEC that go to the NIT. And we'll continue to get a bunch of teams in. I think this will be a big breakthrough year to potentially have double-digit teams in and it'll only continue.
Raise your hand, other questions? Let's go to the far left, second row.
Richmond Weaver, Fox Sports Upstate in Greenville, South Carolina. Can you talk about R.J. Godfrey transferring from Clemson and the impact that he can have on your team and what his ceiling can be?
Sure. RJ was part of a winning culture and a special year at Clemson, one of the best teams in the country, competed and complemented two all-league front court guys. We thought he was super underrated when he jumped in the portal. We pursued him aggressively, quickly. Very fortunate to coach him every day. During the recruiting process, I talked to RJ about obviously defending and rebounding and scoring and X's and O's and style of play and all those things, but we were counting on him to be a change agent, within our culture, to be a guy in our locker room that models what we're trying to do on a daily basis in rebuilding Georgia basketball, and he has done all of that. I said, if you come to Georgia, I'm going to bring you to Media Day. That's how important you are to the future of this program, and he's the same guy every day, plays extremely hard, tough, physical, aggressive. He's a winner, and I'm excited to coach him.
Raise your hand, other questions? Come to the front row, middle.
Hey, Mike. Bob Old,
Hey, Bob.
Arkansas. Daryl Craig said, I want to go on the record as when you were a point guard at Ole Miss, I thought the league was great because of players like you.
Listen to you.
Yeah,
I passed it to Keith and Ansu and ran to the corner before I turned it over.
yeah.
I fouled so much they could only call 5, which they often did, and I have to go sit by Coach Evans.
Yeah, I just want to get that in there, though. Hey, you obviously made the transition within the league, Florida to Georgia. John Calipari's doing that from Kentucky to Arkansas. Maybe it's a little bit apples and oranges, but just what's it like switching jobs within the league? And what do you think about, a year ago we probably didn't think John would be at Arkansas. Just what are your thoughts on him being at Arkansas now?
He's a really good coach, and he's going to produce a winner wherever he is. With regards to me making a move, it seems like it was 20 years ago now. So much has been through so much here, these last 7 months or something like that. But it was just an opportunity that I was really excited about. I'm sure the same thing with Coach Cal, an opportunity to impact another program and have a different type opportunity, and we're enjoying it every day.
Let's go to the second row. All right, that's all right. Yeah, go to the second row, and then we'll come down to the first row.
Jack Pilgrim, KSR, following up on Bob's question, just the transition at Kentucky with Pope taking over. What do you know about Pope, and what are you kind of expecting him to do with that program?
I'm sure he'll do a wonderful job. It's a big-time program, obviously, a proud program. I always enjoy our trips to Rupp Arena. He was a heck of a player. He's a heck of a coach. And I'm anxious. We're all, as coaches, we coach this game, and there's a business side of it. It's our career, obviously, but I think, at least speaking for myself, and I'm assuming there's others in this league, we're all still fans of the game as well. And I'm anxious to see how Coach Cal's teams play at Arkansas. I'm anxious to watch his first few games, and certainly Coach Pope at Kentucky as well.
Okay, let's come to the front row on the left, and then we're going to go to the third row on the right.
Morning, Coach. AP Stedham, AP and Kelly, as we see it. Coach, do you still hear the phrase football school when you're on the recruiting trail, or is it less? And how do you approach it?
No, I think you hear that less and less in our league. And it really doesn't matter. I'm the biggest Georgia football fan there is. My kids are rocking Georgia football gear. My little one's at the house, and they're big Kirby Smart fans, and probably can reel off all the starters on offense and defense. And we sell it. I mean, why would you not? Georgia football is absolutely rolling, as are many football programs in this league. And it's all one big happy family. I can tell you, Coach Smart, uniquely as a Georgia grad, does whatever he can to help assist with resources, with recruiting, speaking engagements. You'll never hear him talk about Georgia football without talking about another sport. He's proud of the university, and I'm very thankful to him for that.
All right, next question on third row in the middle.
Good morning, Coach. Brad Harvey from College Sportscast. Let's talk about Silas. He's coming into his sophomore year. Where do you expect to see his growth go going into the second year?
His assist turnover ratio, Silas Demery that is, and his three-point percentage is significantly improved over the course of the summer and the fall to complement, in my opinion, one of the best defensive and rebounding point guards in our league. Ultra competitive, along the lines of R.J. Godfrey, as we talked about earlier, a guy that brings it every day, that exemplifies that motor, that toughness, making winning plays type of a guy.
Next question, front row in the middle.
Anthony Christensen, Whole Hog Sports. I was just kind of wanted to ask you about Tyron Lawrence, obviously coming in from Vanderbilt. Having 4 years of SEC experience, how important is it to not just have experience when you're looking at a transfer, but when you have the chance to get a guy with that much experience in the league? How big of an emphasis was that looking at him, and how big of an emphasis is that just in recruiting in general?
You know, I think it's hit and miss with regard to the level at which you transfer from. I've seen high major transfer to a high major program that maybe underwhelms a little bit, and vice versa, right? And we've had low to mid-major transfers that have had a ton of success, and then obviously some that you say, boy, it was a big jump from that level. I think each is it's an individual evaluation and process. With him, though, having played in the league the last 4 years, it gives us a lot more familiarity with who he is as a player. In particular, 2 years ago, playing in Stegman when he had a heck of a game against us, and we're saying to each other as a staff, boy, he's from right down the road. So, he gets in the portal, and just like RJ, pursued him aggressively. Wonderful young man, talented defender, fast and quick, and he's made some big shots in his SEC career.
Next question in front row on the far left.
Ryan Black with the Louisville Courier-Journal. Michael, I wanted to ask again about Mark Pope. A very specific question was that he was a senior when you were a freshman. We're talking about the playing days.
Yeah.
Do you remember the one matchup there at Rupp Arena? I'm sorry, I know it was a lopsided loss, but just what do you
No,
remember about that?
it's again, fan of college basketball. I tell the story all the time. I want to say the final score was like 90-60, at least.
That's on the note, yeah.
Oh, wow. How about that? I told the story so many times, I probably Googled it one day to make sure I wasn't lying about the score, but I want to say it was like 30 at halftime. And I remember Walter McCarty dunking balls under the rim, right? He'd land under the rim and just start jumping up and down and get into press, right? That's the way they played, and they were a phenomenal team with a bunch of pros on that team. I want to say that's the game that we got snowed in as well, where I think we were forced to stay an extra night in Lexington before we could fly back. But that team there was about as talented a college basketball team as I've seen. And you could go through that roster. I want to say 9 or 10 of those guys played in the NBA, if I'm not mistaken. 9. How about that?
Next question on the third row on the far right, excuse me.
James Fletcher from On3. I wanted to ask you, Coach, what are some of the differences when you're integrating a transfer into your program, who maybe you're having to reprogram some of the things that they know, the terminologies that they use, versus bringing in a freshman who you're maybe teaching something for the first time? And what are kind of some of the differences in teaching those two groups?
It's very different. It's a great question. The reprogramming, you would think would provide more challenges than the natural freshman, than what we were doing 10 years ago, where we're bringing in all 5 or 6 freshmen a year. But I think it's neutralized by the experience, by the fact that you're a year or 2 or 3 years older, or 4 years older in Tyron Lawrence's case, to where I know this is what you guys called it at your previous spot. This is what we call it, and boom, it's easier than you would think. There are some advantages though with the freshmen too, where it's all they've heard, and I think the buy-in as well. I think that there's certain scenarios with some of these older transfers where I know you guys did this and had success with this, but this is the way we do it. And so I think it's important to have some of those conversations during the recruiting process to make sure the expectations meet.
Next question, third row on the left.
Hey, Mike. Neil Blackman, Saturday Down South. You've coached some really kind of gym ratty guards over your career, Speedy, Chioza, guys like that. Where is Silas and Blue in that group, and how good can this backcourt be?
Good backcourt. Those guys are both improved. We talked about Silas earlier. Blue's passing ability, playmaking ability has improved. His competitiveness, his defending and rebounding to complement a guy who at 18 years old came in and made some shots. He's learning how to round out his game. We've got some veteran guards with those guys as well, and we've got a freshman point guard from Serbia in Savo, who's a talented guy himself, Dakota LaFew, Shane Montgomery. We've got some talented guards, and you say, boy, we've got a really, really good backcourt, and you look at all the backcourts in this league, and there's a bunch of them. But our guys are going to be competitive for sure, and there's going to be nights where our guards outplay some other teams in this league's guards. But those guys are improving. Speedy is the best passer I've ever coached, led the nation in assists. We had some really good guards at Florida. And then our first 2 years at Georgia, Terry Roberts had a really good year in year one, and Silas had a really good year last year. Silas is competitive. He's growing every day. Excited about our sophomore backcourt, but also some veterans in that freshman that I talked about that complement those guys.
Let's go to the middle on the third row. And we'll come back to the front row.
Joey Dwyer, Vandy Sports. How do you view Tyron Lawrence factoring into your backcourt that has a few returners who have done some things in college?
Yeah, Tyron's got more experience. He's new to our system, of course, but he complements those guys. And I don't know at this point, who starts and who plays the most. And we've got a ton of parity with regard to projecting who's going to lead us in scoring or who's going to be the top 2 or 3 scorers. I just have no idea, nor do I care, right? But he's a guy that brings it every day. Expect him to make an immediate impact, make a big impact on our program. He's got a chance to have a really good finish to his career in his 5th year. Compliments those guys. He's different than those 2 guys. He's got some similarities to Deshane Montgomery, but more experience. He's had a really good practice yesterday.
Okay, question on the front row.
Mike, Jonas Adu, he's at Arkansas now, and I looked up. I think he had 15 boards against you guys last year and like 10 points.
Who's this, Bob? I'm sorry.
Jonas Adu from Tennessee.
Oh, yeah.
He's at Arkansas now.
Yeah.
I think he had a pretty good game against you guys. Just wondering what you think of him as a player and maybe what kind of player Arkansas is getting.
Yes, skilled guy with a really good feel. He always appeared in just evaluating him on film that the game wasn't too fast for him, right? Quick thinker, underrated passer, shot blocker, and alter with really good hands and really good touch around the rim. A really good SEC player. I think he's preseason All-League, which is about where it should be.
Got time for maybe one more question, anyone? All right, we'll give Bob the last question.
You talked about the strength of the league, and I forgot, I'm pretty sure there were not 9 football teams in the preseason AP poll. I know it's preseason and stuff will change.
Yeah.
But the fact that SEC basketball, there's more SEC basketball teams ranked in the preseason poll than football teams.
You said that. I didn't say that.
Yeah. That just seems like.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I just wonder what you think about that. And I don't know, do you have some fun with that with
No.
your football people?
SEC football is like the NFL, right? It's just incredible, and I'm a big fan. What SEC basketball has done in the past decade, as we talked about, is remarkable. Preseason is preseason. But it does speak to the depth of our league and the talent, the capability of so many teams in our league that can not only get to the tournament but potentially make a run in the tournament. If you look at the rosters in our league, my goodness, I don't know who you look at and say, well, I think they'll be a little bit down this year. It's not in our league right now. It's just you've got really good coaches and really good staffs and athleticism and size and talent, depth. I think we'll get double-digit teams in the NCAA tournament this year.
Thank you, Coach White.
Thank you, guys.